Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm out in the garden this afternoon. It is a really nice day, it's nice and cool, and we finally have a little bit of blue sky for once, which is fantastic. And I thought today I would plant some potatoes and share how I'm going to be planting potatoes, both in pots, predominantly in pots really, and also I'm planting a few in the ground as well. If you're new to the channel, my name is Robyn and I live here on the south coast of New South Wales, Australia with my partner and our two cats. We run a backyard flower farm here, but today we're doing something a little bit different. We are planting some veggies, getting some potatoes in the ground. I absolutely love homegrown potatoes, and if you're in a frost-free area, now is the perfect time to get some potatoes in the ground. We live very close to the coast here, so we don't really get that many frosts at all, and if we do, they are way down the back of the property, kind of down in the lower elevation area, but up near the house and near my cottage garden it doesn't really hit the frost, so we're pretty good to be planting potatoes throughout winter. I know a lot of people wait until spring, particularly if you're around some areas of Victoria and Tasmania. Spring is a better time to be planting potatoes, but if you are close to the coast, you don't get really harsh frosts, and also if you're like in the subtropics, now is a really great time to plant. I have previously grown potatoes. I planted some in June back when I lived around Brisbane, and we harvested them I think in later October. They were a fantastic crop, and I do have videos about that on the channel. I'll link them in the description box. But as I said, you can either plant potatoes in the ground or in pots. It's totally up to you and your soil type. For us, we have a very clay soil. It's so clay-like in some areas. You could honestly just use the clay to make pottery. It is so dense and compact. And that is not the type of soil that potatoes like very much. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be predominantly growing potatoes in pots. Also, we've had a lot of rain and the soil around us is very waterlogged at the moment. We could be getting some more rain. I think we're set for a bit of a wet spring, so I don't really want to take too many chances by planting too many root crops in the ground. By planting them in pots, I can really maintain how much moisture is going to be in those pots. I can move them around, and I can also add really good potting mix, which is free draining, and the potatoes are going to grow a lot better in that. Both growing in the ground and in pots, they really both have their advantages. You can plant a lot more potatoes in the ground and not have to buy in potting mix and pots. But if you do want to grow in pots, it's also a benefit because you can grow them if you are renting or you have like an apartment garden. There's always a way to grow potatoes. They're one of my favorite crops to grow, and I'm very excited to get some in the ground today. In terms of the size of pots that I'm going to be using, I have this size here. Let me get some out. This is the size that I'm going to be using today. I don't know 100% how many litres these are. These were just around the garden. I think they're probably around 25 to 30 litres though, which is a good size for growing potatoes in. I also have some geofelt containers from Aussie Gardener Store that I might be planting some potatoes in as well. They have I think it's about 100 litre capacity. They do also have some grow bags on their website, and you can use my link in the description box to purchase some of those products if you are wanting some potato growing bags. That does help me out a little bit financially and just helps to go back into the channel and support making these videos. But you can honestly find pots like this on Facebook Marketplace, or I think I actually got a few of these from our local tip as well. They're around, you can definitely find them. Otherwise, you can use so many things to grow potatoes in. It just has to have holes at the bottom to drain and also just be large enough. In terms of what potatoes I'm going to be growing today, I have purchased 3 different types of seed potatoes. I bought these from Garden Express. And usually potatoes are classed into early, second earlies and main crop potatoes is what my researchers told me. I'm not a potato expert, but I was interested into just understanding the different types of potatoes for when you might want to plant them and when you might want to harvest them. So like the name suggests, earlies are the ones that you harvest first. They're usually a little bit smaller, but I think they're one of the most delicious. So they have a little bit more of a smoother, waxier texture, and I believe they're really good for salads and also boiling and eating. So that's kind of what the early range is. And then main crop potatoes are usually a little bit larger, and they are really good for storing and really used as an all-round potato, that they do take a little bit longer to grow, or you can leave them in the ground a little bit longer to mature a little bit more, to get a little bit larger and then be able to store them. So this is kind of how they come in a bag. I've actually already planted a few of these, but firstly I chose to get some Nicola potatoes. This is what they look like. They look really nice and healthy, and I can start to see a few sprouts on them, which is fantastic. These take about 85 to 105 days, and they are a second early, and I'm pretty sure they're kind of just like a good all-round potato. All of the ones that I've chosen are like that. I didn't go for the really early ones or like too much of the main crop. I kind of just went with all in between. But apparently these are really good for boiling and roasting and also adding into salads, so I'm excited to give these a go. I also went with Kennebec, which are an early main crop. Again, probably a little bit overlapping with the second early. This is what these look like, and these are apparently really great for making chips and also a good all-round potato. They take about the same as Nicola to mature and to grow. And then for main crop, I have Dutch creams. These are one of my favorite potatoes ever. Love Dutch cream potatoes, and these are a little bit smaller actually, but they still look really healthy and ready to get in the ground. These have a really creamy flavour, as the name suggests. And this is what I grew back in Brisbane, had a really fantastic harvest. They stored really well, and they're fantastic for roasting, making mashed potato. Yeah, these ones I love, and I'm very excited for these. I'm excited for all of them, can you tell? I love potatoes. I also have a few, or one potato actually, that I saved from a bag that we got. I don't remember what type these are. I think they're either Sebago, or they're Dutch creams. One of the two of those, but we get these from our local farm shop, and they are grown locally to us as well. So I thought I would plant these, see how they go. These have actually started already sprouting, you can see there. And I've just been keeping them in an egg carton out on the kitchen bench to firm up the underside where I've cut the potato, because I don't really want to be planting this straight into soil, or else there is a risk that it could start to rot. So I've made sure that they have a good seal and that they're ready to plant now as well. So I'll probably honestly be harvesting a lot of these around the same time. Maybe Nicola I'll harvest a little bit earlier, but yeah, I am really excited to see how they go. I've never grown potatoes down this far south before, and I really want to. I don't know why I didn't grow them last year, probably because I was a bit wrapped up in the flower farm, but yeah, this is the year we're getting potatoes in the ground. I also just wanted to mention, now is a really good time to buy potatoes, to buy seed potatoes. You want to make sure when you get them, you don't give them a wash or anything like that. You can take them out of the box, out of the plastic, just keep them in a cool, dark place until you're ready to plant them. You can also chit your potatoes, which is kind of what I was doing with these ones, letting the eyes and the sprouts grow a little bit, just to make sure that you have really healthy sprouts before you plant. It does accelerate the growth a little bit, but because we don't get those frosts here, I think it's going to be fine to just plant these in the pots and in the ground now. Right, now that introduction is done, let's plant these potatoes. We're going to plant them in pots first, and then I have actually already planted some in the ground that I'll do a voiceover at the end of the video to show you how I do that. But let's get planting these potatoes. So to plant these potatoes, it is really simple. You just want to grab your pot here and fill up the base of this pot with, I'm just using general purpose potting mix. And you want to fill up this about 3 to 4 inches, or around 10 to 15 centimeters of potting mix at the base. Now, I also want to mention I'm actually going to be earthing these up as they grow. You can either plant your potatoes in and doing the same method by about this much soil, plant them in, fill the pot up to the top, or as they grow, you can continually earth them up as they grow. That's what I'm going to be doing, just to make sure I have enough compost to cover all of my potato pots, but that isn't completely necessary. I'm also going to be adding in a little bit of blood and bone, just a sprinkle of this to feed the potatoes. So I'm just going to sprinkle that in. And then how many potatoes you plant per pot is really kind of up to the size of the pot that you have and also how big your seed potatoes are. For a larger potato like this size, I would just plant one per pot. But for these little ones that I have here, this size, I'm going to be planting 2 of these in this pot here. Then you simply just want to cover those potatoes up with, again, about 10 centimeters or so of soil, and then that is pretty much it. Also make sure to label your potatoes to make sure you know which is which. I'm notoriously pretty bad at labeling things, but this time I want to get it right. So I am labeling what kind of potato and then also how many seed potatoes I'm planting in each pot, just to get a little bit of an idea. 2 even in this pot might have been too much, but we'll see when we harvest them and yeah, see how they grow. Alright, this is what I managed to plant with the pots that I had. So I've got 6 of these pots here. I still have quite a few potatoes actually left over that I'll need to find homes for. I know there's a few more of these around the garden, so I'll have to have a bit of a look. But I am really happy with these. We have a full mix of different potatoes planted in here, so as they grow I will update you throughout the videos. I'll show how I'm earthing them up as well, so yeah, I will keep you posted on the growth of all of these. If you're interested on how to grow potatoes in the ground or how I'm doing it, I'll include a clip next of how I've planted a few in the ground. I'll probably have to find maybe a home for some of those other potatoes somewhere where it's dry on the property. And I'll also show where I'm storing these potatoes up near the house in the cottage garden. I also wanted to say, if you are in an area that's quite marginal, you do occasionally get frosts. They're not too bad, but sometimes you might get a little bit of a harder frost. Then you can also just cover your potatoes with some frost cloth, or if they're in the pots, just take them in at night and they will be completely fine. They can handle a really, really light frost, but like most plants, don't really like to freeze over and over again. So just keep that in mind for your correct planting time. I am broadly in the Sydney region, I suppose. It's quite subtropical, the winters that we get here. But if you are concerned, also just have a chat to people around in your local neighbourhood or community garden to see when they plant their potatoes. Local knowledge is always the best when planting things in your garden, and I would highly encourage just chatting to your neighbours about what to grow and when. So I'll roll these next few clips now of planting them in the ground and where I'm storing these pots. So this is the area that I'm going to be planting a few potatoes in the ground. I used to have my compost bins here. I've slowly moved it over to the left and you can see I still have one there. I also found a frog when I was pulling back the cardboard, so that's why I was just being really gentle around that area. It was awesome to see a native burrowing frog. But anyway, I am just digging a little bit of a trench here, and this is kind of like my experimental plot, I suppose, of digging potatoes and planting them in the ground. If you want to be digging and growing potatoes in the ground, I usually will dig down kind of like the length of the shovel head and then plant the potatoes in that. And I am just trying to break up this soil a little bit more. As you can see when I'm taking it out, I've got a really nice teeny tiny topsoil layer from where I had some homemade compost, but below it is really, really clay-like. So I'm just trying to break that up as much as possible. I honestly don't really love using this method because I prefer to keep my soil as it is and build up the soil. However, with clay like this, it is really hard to grow things when it is so compacted. Like I was growing in the pots, I'm also going to be adding some blood and bone, so just a sprinkle of that throughout the trench. And then I am just going to mix that in a little bit, making sure that there's no real large clumps of the clay, or else that will mean your potatoes might not grow the best. I'm planting about 4 Nicola potatoes in this trench, and I'm just looking to see where the eyes are and having those facing up. It doesn't really matter if you don't, they will definitely find their way. And I'm just digging down a little bit. I made sure that the trench isn't just really hard pan clay below, that I did kind of break it up a little bit. And what I'm doing, I'm kind of just nestling the potatoes into the soil so that when I backfill those, that they're not going to move around. And I'm planting these about 30 centimeters, 25 to 30 centimeters apart from each other. And then again, like I did with the pots, I'm just trying to cover them with about another 10 centimeters of soil, making sure to break up that clay as I go along. And then that's basically it for growing them in the ground. I will hill these up using the rest of the soil that's to the right of the trench as the potatoes grow. And hopefully they grow well here. I'll keep you updated on how these go and see how the yield differs from growing in pots. I am also planting a few in this geofelt container. I had some greens planted in here, and then one day I came out and they were all eaten by what I think were some slugs. So I may have a bit of an issue with slugs in this area, but we'll see how we go with the potatoes. Hopefully they don't get too badly damaged, but I was just taking a little bit of soil out of this container so that then I can hill them up as they grow, and burying them about 5 centimeters down, adding some blood and bone, mixing that through, and then just adding a little bit more soil on top. And this is where I had all of the pots. These are going to grow just on some cardboard at the edge of one of my garden beds, and I will probably come through and mulch this cardboard with either sugarcane mulch or maybe some seaweed, depending on what I can get my hands on, just to make sure that the moisture is retained within the pots. Potatoes really like a lot of moisture, so you don't want your pots to dry out, or else you may have a smaller yield in potatoes. I also have to cover these with some mesh and covers because we do have a bandicoot in the area, and I do not trust the bandicoot at night, so that's why I have a little bit of chicken wire over these containers. Right, that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed or found it useful. If you're planting potatoes anytime soon, let me know your favorite method of planting potatoes. And if you're in an area where you can grow more potatoes in the ground, I'm very envious of you. I'm sure if we stayed here for years and years and worked on the soil to amend that clay content, we would be able to, but for now it is just a little bit impossible for me. Like always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for lots more gardening and flower farming content. We will be back to the flower farm next video or the video after because I am still working on all of that in and amongst planting all of the food that I'm growing. So if flower farming is more your thing, then don't worry, lots of videos of those will be coming soon. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, you can always head over to my Patreon where I share extra content over there, or you can shout me a coffee or a tea. I have a coffee link in the description box below. Or if you just want to like the video and leave me a comment and subscribe, that is also free to you and really does help my channel out. Thanks again so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And until my next one, happy gardening everyone. Bye.